Hello YouTubers, it's JSky91 here, and today I'm going to be going over some useful advanced finger tricks. So some of these tricks may seem really simple to you, but others are not maybe to you. So, and I'm going to put this into three sections, one on the cross, one on the F2L, and then the last one will be on OLL and PLL finger tricks. But just to clarify before we get going, I'm probably going to refer to this many times. Home grip, to me, when I say home grip, is this basic grip right here, where your thumbs are in front, covering those two stickers, and your back two fingers, your middle fingers, and your ring fingers are back like this. Your indexes are up here pointed, and your ring fingers are back here, okay? So you're just ready to execute the cube very easily. U, U, D, D, things like that, okay? So most of these things are going to try and work from home grip, especially for F2L. Alrighty, so let's move on. Alrighty, so the first trick I want to go over is something really simple. It's something that you guys probably already do, but it's something that I think is important. Well, actually, this is going to demonstrate two tricks kind of at one. But it's using D2s, or even just in general using Ds. And I think it's very important that you use D2s and that you also know how to use D2s correctly. So we have this simple case right here. I just set this up. These are U2 in this case, or D2 as we're going to do it away, and these two are D2 away, right here. So I'm just going to slice those in just for the second, just to demonstrate this. So doing a D2. So if you end up in this situation, you have two choices. You can either do a D2 or do a U2, thick U2. So the reason why in most cases you're going to want to do a D2 is just because it doesn't rotate the cube as much, so you don't get confused. So like, if I had just finished this cross and I was about to go find my next pair, I would be watching this pair or these pairs right here. And so it's easier if I do a D2 here, because then I can move right into my next pair. Then if I do a U2, it can be kind of confusing to some people. So I recommend doing D2s if possible, but I do also use U's as well. But U2s are pretty simple. We just do them the same way we should normally. We use thick, or use index, middle. And the same thing if you have to do U2 prime. I know a lot of people don't use this. This is very useful for this and in general when you're doing your F2L as well. I'll go over that a little bit more, but you should be able to do both ways. So yeah, there's that. If you want to do D2s though, the way I do them and the way I really recommend doing them is do them ring finger, pinky. So, and I use this is really used for in PLLs as well, which I'll go over it again for as a use, but it's quite fast, and it's set up perfectly. So you're sitting here in home grip, right? And all you just need the finger that sits on that is that ring finger. Then all you gotta do is follow through with the other finger, and you're done. So yeah, that's a useful little finger trick. Another little finger trick, just kind of flowing off of this idea here, is what I call the slice move. So if you look at this cross we have it here, this is kind of similar to the other one. This is U2 away, or D2 away. This one's U2 away. And then these two are already lined up. And so you run into this quite a lot, at least I do, especially if you're color neutral, where you've got to do an F2 and then an L prime, R prime, and then a D2. So the way I do this trick is actually, I would set it up, if I have it in this situation, I set it up so it's on the right side, and I do a split grip with the right hand. I do an R2 and I do slice. So I push, so I R2 and then I push down with these two fingers right there. And then normally, because I'm in this grip right here, which is kind of awkward, doing a D2 is kind of difficult. I do a U2 at the end, thick U2. Another really easy finger trick that you run into in lacrosse is this little thing right here. So we have whites here, and you just have to do an R2 F2. Or, it could be on the left or the right. If you ever get this, you're going to want to set it up so that it does an R2, F2, because it's really quick. But I see a lot of people don't do this right. A lot of people, like, when they do this, they do R2, and then, I don't know, like, I've seen people do R2 and then F2 like that. Or I've seen people do R2, or R2 from home grip, then regrip and do an F2. So this isn't necessarily an extremely difficult trick, but this is going to be done from right split grip, and you're just going to do R2, F2. It's gonna do your R2 regularly, and then you end up so that you can just do an F2 almost as if you're doing a U2. So if you notice, I'm using a bunch of really bad cubes here, so this isn't very good representation, but it can be quite nice. And like a lot of times, if I'll end up in this position, that's fine with me because it's, you know, whatever, 0.2 seconds. If you have something like this little edge needs to be flipped and put in here. Everything else is done. One really useful way to do this is, and I think most of you know this, is just you would do a U prime, R prime, F, R. But one thing I see people do a lot is like they want to regrip up here. I don't really understand why. Or like when they try and do this, they like, seen people do weird things like that. It can be quite simple. You just U prime, R, F, R. You don't ever need to leave home grip when you do this. So I mentioned earlier the use of thick U's, which I'm sure many of you probably already know these finger tricks, but it can be really useful in cases like this, where you end your cross with, let's say, 3 pieces. And sometimes I'll end a cross like this just on purpose, so that because it's so damn quick. And you have this one little edge that's in place and it needs to be flipped. So it can be here or it could be there, like that. Or it can be here too. And you're just basically going to turn this case into this case when you do it. But yeah, if you get this, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, you just do a thick U, R prime, U. Like that. Really nice. Really simple. There, da, da. And the inverse is the same too. So, and then this one you would just do, you're just basically going to move the thick so that you're above the spot where it belongs. Put it on, and then move it back. Yeah, and so like if you have it here, I start on the bottom, I start right there, and just do that. I do the forward one, because I think it's a little quicker. Yeah, so that's a quick little finger trick. Another good place to use is in something like this, where you have these 3, or just, they don't necessarily have to be done, but you basically have them one turn away from being done. And then you have this one right here, needs to go right here. And so like if it were stuck here, you can envision it being like this, and it's one away from being done. But you don't want to put it there. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do an R2, U, R prime. So it works out really nicely. Again, here's the case situation, and you do an R2, pull down for the U, R prime, and cross is solved. A lot of cases actually cancel into that case as well. So, for instance, this case, these 2 are correct relative, this one is not, but I see these are opposites. This case actually very easily cancels into the other case. If I just toss that one in, now, you see that I have the exact same situation here, where I can do an R2UR. So here, like in this case, I can toss those in. Now these are all relative to one another, and then I can just pair those up and pull them in. This is also very similar to the other one that I just described, except in this case everything is Y2 away. For the cross, and then we have just this one that's stuck in place, but Y2 away as well. This is also an easy way to do it. Just do an R, R, thick U prime, R, U prime. Like this. So R, thick U prime, R prime, U prime. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to do something like an in this case, an R2, L2, like this. This is a really simple trick, and a lot of people don't realize it. Instead of doing an R2, L2, what you should do is you should do an M2. And you should set it up such that your white cross in this case, or your bottom cross color, is on top. So when you do the M2, it's on bottom. And now you just, like in this case, just have to do an F, and I'm ready to go. If you ever need to do an R2D, R2, such as in this case right here, where these 2 cross pieces are relative to one another, that's properly lined up, and this piece just needs to go there. So if you say I put that there and did a D, it would be correct relative position to one another. You can do it like this, and it's really nice. You starting from home grip, so you never need to regrip, R2, and you can push with your index, like that. So it just basically turns your index into an F. You kind of curve up the cube a little bit, and you just flick with your ring and down. So if we're going back over, it's really nice. So some F2L finger tricks. Now I'm going to start with some of the simplest ones. This is a really easy case, right? This F2L, it's like the simple insert, R, U, R prime. But the way you do this, I think, is very important. And it's important that you understand this concept, that you don't need to regrip. In other words, switch to a different grip, split grip, or inverse split grip in any way in order to do this one. This trick is very easy, or this F2L case is very easy, and it should not involve any regrips. And there's similar cases like this that I'll go over in a sec too. But so in order to execute this one, you should do it like this: R, U, R prime. So basically what I'm doing here is my hands start in home grip, right, and they stay in home grip. So I do an R, and then in order to get that pairs them up, and in order to pull them in, I just push underneath my finger and then pull back down. The thumb should stay in relatively the same spots the whole time. You don't need to lift up your thumb when you do this. It's just very smooth. R, U, R prime. And so this makes a big difference in regrips. Because in Vision, what a lot of people don't realize, so like a lot of people go down to here to do this, right? R, U, R prime. They don't realize is that they're actually committing 2 regrips when they do this. You have to do an initial regrip, R, U, R prime, and then if you want to get back to a home grip in order to do other things, you need to do a second regrip. So it's 2 regrips. And a lot of people do this in like a multitude of times. Like they'll be like, for this case right here, same thing from the back slot. They'll regrip, and then they'll regrip. 2 of them. Or you can do another way of doing it, is just keep my hands in home grip, R prime in this case, U prime, R. You don't even need to regrip for it at all. Saves you regrip just as fast. Well, actually faster because it saves you regrip. So yeah, this should be done from all angles. So the inverse version, it's like this one, same thing. If you have a block and you have to put it in, like that. Should just be done without a regrip. R, U prime, R prime. Same here. Now, if you have, let's say you want to do this, wait seconds. Say you want to insert a block back here, right? Most people regrip to the top and do that, right? Which I agree is very fast, and there's still sometimes I do it, especially if I end on this grip, I'll just stay there. But I think the better way to do this is to use what I call I just pinky ring finger trick. Basically, you're going to take your pinky and put it on the bottom sticker right here, and your ring finger is going to go over the top. So you're just basically in home grip, but then you add your pinky at the bottom there to hold it. And you're going to do R, and you're going to slide. This is like, some people call this a square one trick because it's very square one-y. So R, U, R prime. And that's very useful. Saves a regrip. Again, if you don't need to regrip, you shouldn't regrip in this case. And the same thing for the other side. So I'm not quite as practiced at this because for a while I was just regripping for this, but I'm learning to do the same thing on this side too. So at first you'll notice your fingers will kind of come off and stuff like that, but it takes practice. Totally worth it in the long run. So yeah, that's a really important thing to avoid is regrips. So like, same thing here. Like if let's say you needed to do this insert right here, you don't need a regrip to the top when it is. Just stay here, up, down. Just do R, U to R prime. And like, if we're doing, let's say this F2L case right here, this is all the same thing. I don't need to regrip for this F2L case. R, U, R prime, U, R, U prime, R prime. You should always again be using your U2 primes. U2 like that, and you make sure you do them the double flick and you use them when you're necessary. If you're ever doing an R, you should be using the U2 prime afterwards. And if you're ever doing an L, you should use an R2 prime. The same is true of this case as well. Starting with home grip, all I can do is just do the inverse what most people would regrip down here to do. Just U, R, U, R prime, U, R, U, R prime, U, R, U, R prime. Yeah, did too many there. Yeah. And this case. And this case. And this case. in this case. And it's mirror, this case. And also this case, although you may not think it, if you do a soon from the back slot right here, you end up with this case. Soon, that case. No regrips. Here's a trick to avoid cube rotations, especially ones that I would think would be unnecessary. If you have something like this little pair right here, this S2L pair, that belongs in the back right or back left slot, you can do this little finger trick to put it in instead of doing a cube rotation. And I mean, I've timed it, it's actually even faster than doing the cube rotation and insert. It's actually faster than that. It's basically going to regrip to the top here, and we do an R. All the R's in this case are thick R's. So R prime, U, R, U prime, which basically, if you look at it, you just take out that little back edge piece here, put in the pair, and then re-put it in. Yeah, so it's R prime, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, U prime, R. And this can be used from the other angle as well. And in this case, it's just regrouped here. L, U prime, L, U, L, U prime, or U, L. Yeah. Very useful. Useful thing to consider is how to operate the front face. So I say operate, meaning how to turn the front face of the cube. There are a couple different ways. The most common way to turn the front face is to simply regrip like this and turn the front face into a U face. So you just do, you can do pulls and pushes like that. Same thing for left side, people often do that. The second, probably most common way to do this is use thumbs. So left and right. I don't know if any people use left-handed thumbs. I don't. But I do use the right-handed thumb, especially in some PLL and OLLs. As well as there's sometimes you can throw it into F2L. And then the other way that I don't think very many people are aware of, and this is something that I use in my PLLs, is to push under. So you don't even need to regrip for this. And I use this. I'm actually the only person I know. It's kind of funny, but I'm the only one I know who actually does this. And so I actually use this on my Y perms. This is not my main speed cube, so don't judge my poor turning on this. But basically, when I do my Y perm, I do a slightly different Y perm than the one that most people do. Mine's only 16 moves. It's F, R prime, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. Yeah, so kind of crazy, but if you start with the index push under like this, you keep your thumb under, you push under, there's no regrips throughout the entire thing. So it's really nice. And I can only sub one that. So that's really useful. But the case actually I think is most interesting to consider for F2L in terms of that is if you have something like this case right here where this edge just needs to go here. It's kind of the beginner's case. And most people normally do this one of two ways. I mean, there are 3 ways you can do it, but I don't think a lot of people do that. One way you could do it would just be to R, U prime, R prime, set up into this case, and then do that, which is, I guess, sort of useful. The other thing that people will do is rotate the cube and do the beginner's case. And the other thing that people will do, either from this angle or from this angle, is they'll do the other, I guess, kind of beginner's case where you take out this F2L pair and then take out the corner and the edge and then do one R prime and then put them all back in. And that also works. That's really good if you know, it's good for last layer skips. But the case that I use for this is actually the Teller West version, and I really like this. And it also uses the 4th kind of finger trick for Fs. So if you ever need to do an R prime and then an F prime, you can do an R prime F prime with a flick of your finger, like that. And it's really quick. So the alg for this situation, you can see it on Tyler West's videos because he's the one who gave me this or showed me this, is R prime F prime R U R prime or R U R U prime R prime F. Kind of looks like a lot, but it flows really nicely. Now keep in mind I'm at a really awkward angle here, so it won't look as nice. But this is normally like definitely sub 1 second when you do it. And it's really nice. And you can use it from both sides. I fingered a little bit differently on the other side. I think on the other side I normally do a regrip, which I need to work on not doing, but yeah, so very useful. Alright, so now we're on the last section. This will just be some OLL and PLL finger tricks that I use. So to start off, this is one that Jeremy Fleischman taught me, this OLL case. And it's really nice. I do it from both this angle and that angle. But it has two really useful finger tricks in it. Well, okay. Yeah, it has two useful finger tricks in it. First finger trick is if you want to do an R and then a B. Or B prime. Yeah, in this case. The best way to do this, and this is kind of hard to see, but it's really easy to do, is R and then you're going to push over with your index. Like that. So this works out really nicely when you do this case. It's the same thing here. So, and this is the inverse of it. R, F, R2, and a B prime like that. But the case is really nice, and you can do it from the other side as well. So yeah, again, this is really nice. R over, like that, push over. And I use this for this case and also for a couple other little F2L cases where you ever have to do a B for them. That's really nice, after doing an R. And yeah, the other trick it uses is that flick that I was talking about. Because if you see from this case right here, R prime F, R2 F, like that, when you have to do that last F prime, really nice. Another trick, or useful finger trick, for the PLL at least, is this is the E perm, right? And we use this a lot. And if you don't, you should use the Rowe-Hessler E perm, which is R U prime D, R U R prime D prime, R U R prime D, R U prime R prime D prime. Okay, and you kind of can already see as I'm doing that what we're going to talk about here. But it's just the D and then a D prime. So if you ever need to do D prime a lot in an alg, you should use it at least the way Rowe-Hessler does, where you basically pull and then push back with the same finger. So like in this case I use the left finger for this alg. I pull and then I push right back. Pull, push back, pull, push back. So like in this case for this alg, you do R U prime R prime D, pull, R U R prime push, R U R prime pull, R U prime R prime pull, or push. So yeah, that's useful. Another finger trick that I also learned from Teller is what's called the loop-de-loop. Well, this is an OLL that he calls loop-de-loop, but the finger trick that he used here I think is really useful. And it's basically where if you need to do like an R and then a U2 ever, like an R U2, you can do it with an index flick. So like R U R prime is the alg, and then you do a U2. You push through with that, and with your thumb you can pull up in order to do your another R and then a U2 R prime. Yeah, that's just for his alg in particular. That's nice, but it's also useful on the J perm. So the sexy J. So if you have this J perm right here, you do an R prime, regular R prime, U2, and pull up with the thumb. R, and then finish off the alg like side grips, so it really helps do that. And then finish up the alg. So it's push around, pull, finish up the alg. So that's really nice. Another finger trick that I think is really useful, and I learned this from watching Brendan. Brendan, if you ever have to do a U prime, but like you have a move in between, such as let's say the Y perm, and I'll just do the standard Y perm because it's in both my Y perm and his Y perm. Let's say we start doing the standard Y perm, F R U prime R prime You see how we have, and now so R U prime R prime, and then we're about to do another U prime. What most people do here when they do this F R U prime R prime is they just do another index pull and finish off the out, which is not very ergonomic, and it requires that you pull back twice, which takes a little more time. Instead, what you can do is the F R U prime R prime, then do your middle finger for the next one. So it's the same thing as if you're following through, like if you're doing a U2. And this is something I use on this and also on my T prime. So F R U prime R prime, because I had to do a U prime before. I'm now going to do another U prime with following through and finish off. That's really nice. Also, my T perm does the same thing. So I don't regrip at all for my T perm. I just use this finger trick that I showed you guys earlier. R2, and then I have to do U prime, R prime, U prime, and follows through. So it's completely regripless. And I could normally sub someone that. This is a tie-in right now that I'm using, so don't expect anything crazy nice from it. But yeah, you can be quite nice with it. The final finger trick I want to discuss is just how to do the middle layer in general. So I know a lot of people do this in different ways. I've seen people who do the middle layer just like the old-fashioned way, R2, R, R2. So it's like kind of doing the thick slice thing. I've seen people who do it ring middle, which I think is really awkward. I've seen people who do it pinky ring, like this with the left hand. I've seen people who do it ring, which is actually how I used to do it up until recently. And then there's, at least the other way that I know of, is to do it the way I do it, which is ring pinky. And I do it ring pinky for a very particular reason, because it allows me to do U2s afterwards, like just regular U2s. But yeah, that's something that with the regular grips, with any of the other grips, you really can't get. You can get it with the ring pinky or ring finger, middle finger, but that's also really awkward. You don't have as good of a grip on the cube. Plus, it also requires kind of an awkward regrip. Whereas mine can still be done from home grip, and you can go straight into it. So yeah, that's the last bit of my finger tricks. Thanks for sitting through this video. I know it was pretty long. I just wanted to go over some of these finger tricks. I've gotten a lot of requests from people on different finger tricks that I do and that they've seen me do. So if you made it all the way through, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye-bye.